Yeah, okay. Daniel got it right. I mean, if you guys read what he wrote, that's exactly the issue. Um, okay, I mean it's an issue here. I mean, no, you can't ask. You guys are businessmen. You can't ask why did Ruvain, after he bought his own mill, why does he now want to translate? Why did he buy his own mill? He bought his own mill because why should I? I have an asset. I have an asset that can produce cash. Why shouldn't I use it? Why shouldn't I use it to produce cash? Okay, so we're going to give just another minute because we're going to see what we want to do is we want to see the maforshim that I sent you on the sheet. That's really the next thing we have to see. Okay, the few maforshim. As soon as everybody else gets on, maybe I'll just. All right. Well, Daniel's not here yet to hear, but the example that I gave is a guy doesn't have a driver. Guy owns a car. He inherited a car from his father, and he doesn't have a driver's license. Okay, he doesn't have a driver's license. And he certainly doesn't have a car. He doesn't have a driver's license. So what he did is he rented it to somebody who, with a deal that he's got to give him transportation every day. And that was fine. That was the rent. And the guy had the car. He had for an hour he had to drive Ruvain, and the rest of the time he was able to use the car for himself. And then all of a sudden, Ruvain got a driver's license, and now he doesn't. And he bought a car, so he wants to keep the inherited car, and he wants rental. And it's a very, very simple thing. So, okay, so the cases are real. This could be a very real kind of a case. Okay, it's a very real case. And it's pretty simple when Shimon, the renter, in the event that remember, Shimon doesn't want to pay money. Shimon wants to keep the deal the way it was. All right, let me see. I see David and Ephraim are getting on, so I'll just wait another minute. Okay, Daniel, you got it right, and everything you said was correct. And we have a real case here. And Shimon doesn't want money. He wants to. He has a service. He has a grinding service. He wants to keep the grinding service. And just as anybody would prefer, somebody would rather, what was it, the barter system, or you give services in kind. That's always better than paying money. So that's always better than paying money.
It's just that there's one hunchback on a hunch on this thing, and that is that the grinding service that Shimon had is thanks to the mill that Reuven gives him.
Didn't give him? Why do you call it give him? Reuven didn't do a favor.
Reuven lent it to him.
Reuven has a mill that he can't do anything with. So he said, how do I turn this mill and use it? And he said, I'll rent it to Shimon. And
for the grain, for the flour.
Shimon, part of Shimon's cheshbon is, look, I have no money. But you know what? This is a great idea. If you rent me the mill, I have a horse, I have a donkey. I'll start grinding your wheat for you so I don't have to pay. I need it for myself. According to some Rishonim, and we'll see this maybe, according to some Rishonim, it was even that Shimon took the mill and started a grinding business. He started a grinding business. Yeah. The point is, it's clear that Shimon has an agenda, has interests. Shimon has interests, but those interests are that he should keep grinding meat for Reuven. Right. And Reuven, as long as he doesn't have a grinding mill, his interest is, it's very nice. As far as I'm concerned, that's great because, I have a grinding mill, but I need the grinding mill to grind my wheat. And I can't do it, but Shimon will do it, and I'll let him have the use of it all the time for me to have part of the time. Okay, but then when Reuven gets enough money, he says, why should I take service when I can get cash? Because everybody prefers cash over service. Okay, and that's where now we're stuck. So if you remember, just remind you that a big chiddush in Tosfos that we had outside, the very complicated Tosfos, but Tosfos comes up with the bottom line because of diukim and everything. Is the bottom line is that we're assuming that the Gemara says explicitly that if Shimon will lose, Shimon cannot replace Reuven's grinding the service of grinding with a paying customer, so he can continue grinding the wheat. And Reuven has to do something with the wheat. It's Reuven's problem to do something with the wheat. Okay? But if Shimon could replace Reuven's grinding services with another paying customer, so then Kofin al Midas Dome, and that's really what we wanted, Kofin al Midas Dome, that we make Shimon take the other customers and pay Reuven money, even though, and here's where when we do get to the subtleties of Kofin al Midas Dome, it's probably if you'd ask Shimon, what would you rather do? Would you rather continue grinding for Shimon, for Reuven, or go find customers? What would he rather do?
Stay on the status quo.
He'd rather the status quo, but we force him to change the status quo because of Kofet al Midas Dom. Since at the end of the day, you're going to continue grinding wheat, and you'll take the money that you get for grinding wheat and pay the rent. And since Reuven doesn't need, and you have to add, then Reuven doesn't need your services anymore, putting all that together, Kofet al Midas Dom. But says Tosfos, a big chiddush. But what? That's because. But why do we allow Reuven to maintain Shimon to maintain the status quo? Because he's going to lose. He will lose. He does nothing to do. Remember, we're talking on the side that he has no other customers, and he will have an empty. He will have a mill that is mushbat. That is what's the English word I'm looking for?
Idle. Sits idle. Sits idle.
His mill's going to sit idle, and he's going to lose. So then we can't make Shimon lose just because Reuven says, I don't need the wheat anymore. Okay. However, says Tosfos, what happens if Reuven is also going to lose? Meaning, what's Shimon's taina, and how do we make it a difference between that and the daughter who has two stepfathers who have to feed her? The girl has nothing to do with the extra wheat, with the extra mazonos, therefore she gets money. But Reuven has what to do with the extra wheat. He can sell it, he can store it. In other words, if somebody has to sell the extra wheat, let Reuven sell the extra wheat rather than making Shimon run around looking for customers. Okay? That's the basic din. Says Tosfos, what happens if Reuven also has nothing to do with the extra wheat? He will lose money. He has nothing to do with the extra wheat. There are no customers, and the wheat is not usable for Reuven. Then says Tosfos a big chiddush. They go back and forth. Shimon says, I'm not paying. Reuven says, I'm not going to let you. And the bottom line says, Tosfos, is that Reuven can cancel the deal. Meaning, he can say to Shimon, I don't need your wheat. You have to pay money. Shimon will say, I'm very sorry. You can't change the deal unilaterally. And Reuven says, okay, I can't change the deal unilaterally, but since I don't need what you're giving me anymore, I'm canceling the deal and taking back my mill. And says Tosfos, that's what he can do. That's a big chiddush. Okay, and it's basically what Tosfos is saying is, that if Reuven also has no use for the extra wheat, meaning if Shimon's going to lose, we say Shimon can keep the deal in place. But if Reuven is also going to lose, and Shimon insists on keeping the deal in place, Reuven can cancel the whole deal. He can't force it.
A big chiddush.
He can't know it. He can't force. Remember, the contract was for a year. And so we're going to see from other Rishonim in a minute, he can't force him to give money. At the end of the day, the default here was that if you want to compare it to the daughter case, he should be able to say, I can force you to give me money instead of giving me wheat. And I don't remember, Reuven doesn't want to change the deal. Take back the mill. Reuven wants to keep the deal in place. All he wants to do is instead of ground wheat, he wants to get money. Okay, and that's what he wants, and that's what he's trying to force. And if Shimon refuses, then Reuven can say, then in that case, the deal is off. That's Tosfos. The Rosh disagrees. We saw that the Rosh says, basically the Rosh's attitude is Mapitom. Mapitom, Reuven can change the deal unilaterally. Shimon has no way to generate money. All he has is the ability to grind wheat for Reuven, which was the deal. And it's not his problem if Reuven went out and bought a mill and now doesn't have anything to do with the extra wheat. That's the Rosh. Machlokas Rosh and Tosfos. Okay? Everybody remember, that's basically where we are. Now, if you'll open up the sheet that I sent you, okay, we're going to have 5 sources to talk about all of this, both about the daughter and about the grind and about the mill. We have 2 Ritvos, and we have 2 Rabbeinu Karkasha. I don't exactly know who that was. And we have an important Meiri.
Kraskas.
I don't know. Rabbeinu Karkash.
Kreskats. We had them in.
Kreshkash, right?
We had them in different Masechtas.
Yeah, you've seen it before? I've never seen this.
Yeah, we've seen it. It's a bit of a weird way of, yeah.
Okay. Anyway, let's read the Ritva. So the first 2 Mefarshim are on the Mishnah. All right, you have to understand there are going to be some interesting chidushim in the Mishnah, which once you understand how you learn the Mishnah is going to reflect how you learn the Gemara. So the Ritva says on the Mishnah, Kolomar, What does that mean? What does it mean? Meaning, wait a minute. Ruvain says, I committed mizonos. Shimon, after that, commits mizonos. There's an overlap. For those overlapping years, we'll pool our resources and give her mizonos. And each of us will pay half the mizonos. Ella, so that they can't do that. Ella, what do? Echad zonos ave echad nosein lo demei mizonos. Pirush. Now you have to say why. At the end of the day, the girl says, I don't want your money. Or, I'm sorry. The husband, the fathers are saying, we don't want to pay money. We want to give mizonos. And you're making them give money. Pirush. The lishna muchach. Here's another question. Okay, so what did we do? We decided that one gives money and one gives mizonos. That's clear. Who gives mizonos and who gives the money? Obviously, both of them want to give mizonos. All right? Who decides who gives the mizonos and who gives the money? Says.
Hey, why is that so obvious?
What's so obvious? Why is it what's so obvious?
That both of them would rather give food than money.
Well, wait. I'm sorry. Okay, I shouldn't have made it quite as simplistic as that. What do we do when there's an argument between the two of them that they don't that when they don't agree who's going to give the money and who's going to give the food?
Doesn't the first one have some kind of priority?
Right, that's what I was told.
The first stepfather that agreed should finish out his 5 years giving food, right. And then the other one kicks in. And in the overlap year, the first guy had the deal in place. Let the second guy pay cash.
Yeah.
Why are they equal? Is my question is, why are they equal?
Yeah, agree 100%. Understand? I would say the same thing.
Can I ask an even more preliminary question?
Keep going. Go ahead.
How was the first Mazonos set up? It was set up by Beis Din?
No. The guy marries a woman who has a child. Okay, and the woman says, "Look, it's not your child; it's my child. But I'm only going to marry you if you commit to feed my child for 5 years." You can't imagine that, Pinchas?
I can imagine that very much, but what I can't imagine is that she goes and makes a second deal with the second guy.
Wait. Just I got to go step by step. Okay.
She got divorced then.
Got divorced 3 years later. Okay. And now she's going to marry another guy. Now remember, the clock has been ticking. Okay. She's got 2 years left on the contract. Okay, so she's marrying a second guy, and she's thinking ahead, and she makes the second guy have the same deal, 5 years. That was the deal, and he agreed. He might not even have known what's going on. Okay, he agreed to 5 years mizonos. Okay, and now the two of them find out that, hey, there's an overlap here. I agreed to 5 years, but I see that the last 2 years of my 5 years are being taken care of by Shimon. So why should I don't need to give it. Let Shimon give it. And Shimon says, well, you made a commitment, you give it. And therefore, what they want to do, you got to start from the beginning. What they want to do is they want to say, okay, there's overlap. So we are both responsible to make sure that for the years 2020 to 2022, the girl has mizonos. Okay, because my deal started in 2015 and your deal started in 2018. Okay, and therefore in the year your deal started in the year 2018. So for the next 2 years, 2018 to 2020, we have to make sure she has mizonos, and we'll split the cost. That's what they want to do.
What I don't understand is where is Beis Din in all this?
Wait. Till there's no Beis Din. Why is there Beis Din? Beis Din only steps in when there's a conflict. So wait, I understand exactly what you're asking, and that's exactly we have to know when Beis Din steps in. So in 2015, he makes a deal, I'm going to feed your daughter for 5 years. In 2017, he divorces her. So he's still got to feed the girl for 3 more years. No Beis Din, he's an honest guy. He does exactly what he's supposed to do. All right, and he's feeding the girl for another year. And then the girl in 2018, the wife gets married in 2018. And makes a deal with the new husband that you're going to feed my daughter for 5 years. And the guy agrees. Fine. Okay. And now in 2019 or 2018, the first husband realizes that, hey, I'm sending her food, but she's got food from the second husband. He calls up the second husband. This is ridiculous. She doesn't need two rounds of food. So let's pool our resources, and each will put in half and half, and we'll send her food for the next 2 years. So far, that's what at freeze frame. That's where the Mishnah steps in. Because is everybody happy with that?
Yeah, I'm holding you.
Happy with that. The girl or the mother is not happy with that. Because the girl or the mother, I'm not sure who's going to take them into court, but the girl or the mother is saying, wait a minute, you made a deal for 5 years and you made a deal for 5 years. Each of you owe me for 5 years. The fact that there's overlap, that's not your business. You made 5 years, you got to give 5 years. Shimon gave 5 years, you got to give 5 years. What Shimon could probably say, okay, I'll wait and start my 5 years after Reuven finishes his 5 years. That would be okay. They could probably do that. Okay.
The woman will say no.
Oh, but so again, now we have to decide who has interest here. So the interest of the girl is that she gets mizonos and money. Okay, that's her interest. So what I'm hearing from you is that that you're saying, well, the first husband should have the right to say mizonos. And as if the husband, if Reuven and Shimon can't agree who's going to give mizonos, who's going to give money, your default is that Reuven has to give Reuven can demand to give the food, and Shimon has to come up with the money. That's what you guys are saying.
Yep.
Right.
So now let's look at the Ritva.
Sorry, can I ask a question? It's not clear to me why the daughter has the right to say, oh, and actually, even though you agreed to give me mizonot, I now require, because of the overlap, that you give me cash.
Well, what's the alternative?
I send food, just like I agreed to do.
But you realize that that the two of them together sending food is the girl is not getting. At the end of the day, there is an overlap commitment of double food for 2 years. Can we agree on that?
Yes.
But they're saying but she has nothing to do with double food for 2 years. There's nothing to do with double food for 2 years.
But that seems like that's her problem. She made this deal.
Right.
It's not my problem,
did.
especially if I prefer to give the thing that I agreed to give, and now she says, "Oh, actually, it turns out there's some other guy who's giving me that thing, so I want you to give me cash, which I prefer not to give."
So what again? I hear you guys are saying Gamal.
It's the wife. It's the wife who's changing the contract, not either one of the husbands.
Wonderful. You guys are saying all nice, very nice things. So tell me, bottom line, what's your psak?
Well, it
What I
seems to me
think
that
should
the
be?
girl,
The first guy continues.
Wait, just a
The
minute.
first guy,
Ephraim,
the first guy continues, and the wife has to decide whether she wants from the second husband food or money.
No, there's no way to take food from the second guy if she's getting food from the first guy.
She can throw it out. It's not the first guy's problem.
Whoa. So you're not giving. Wait, are you giving the girl / mother the right to say, I can't use double food. One of you has to give me money in lieu of food. Are you allowing that to happen?
No.
You're saying, listen, the deal was food. You can't use it. It's your problem, and it's going to go to waste. Baltashkis.
Next time she gets married, she should think about it more carefully.
Is that how you would paskin? That you would paskin that the first guy gives food and the second guy's food goes into the garbage.
The second guy, either the food goes in the garbage or he on his own can pay cash.
He wants to give again. Obviously, if we're in court, there is a claim. Who's making the claim here? You guys ask. Now Bezin steps in. Who's making a claim for what? Who's taking anybody into court?
the daughter wants
I
money.
see it.
That's the claim.
The
That's the
wife has
claim. The daughter wants money. That is the claim.
No, you guys skipped a step. The reason we're in court is because Reuven and Shimon realize what's happening, and they're saying we should be able to give food to the girl for the 2 overlap years. And that's what they're claiming.
right. That's their tviya.
So they're saying, so they're being brought into court because the girl/mother is saying, hey, I made a deal to get 2 times food for those 2 years, not 1 time food. But on the other hand, I can't really use food, and therefore I want money. And you guys are saying, okay, you guys are creating the default, as we'll see in the Ritva in a minute. You guys are claiming the default is that the mother has no right to say, the girl has no right to say that. The girl has no right to say that. If nobody wants to give money, then they're stuck.
Yeah.
That's
Well,
right.
it could
If she wants money, let her say, give me 80% of the value instead of the 100%. They can solve that. They don't need court.
We don't need court. We're in court. Why are we in court? Okay.
because somebody's not happy.
Who's not happy right now? It's clear.
Well,
It's clear that the mother/girl is saying, I want somebody to give me money instead of food because I can't use double food.
or it could be that the husbands are going to court and saying, "Hey, it's ridiculous that this woman is getting paid twice. We need both of us agreed to support the daughter. We didn't agree that she be getting more than what she needs to be supported."
No, you see that's the first rejection of the Mishnah. That proposal is the first thing the Mishnah rejects because the Mishnah says right away, okay, lo yom rushneim hareyan uzanim osake. That's the first thing that's off the table. That's not on the table. Reuven made a commitment for 5 years from 2015 to 2020. Shimon made a 5-year commitment from 2018 to 2023. There is no such thing as for those 2 years, they're going to pay half and half. That's not on the table.
Why not?
You want to ask reason for din? You want the reason for din?
No, but the agreement was what's the assault of the agreement? They didn't choose an arbitrary number. The woman didn't say, you know what? I'll marry you on the condition that you give me 200,000 shekel. No, she says, I have a young daughter. She's not yours, but I need security for her. So I need that you have to take care of her food for the next 5 years. And the guy says, okay, that sounds reasonable. Then she comes to another guy and lies to him and says, I need to use you to support him for another 5 years, even though I have, there's a deception there.
You're rephrasing it, and that's not how you should be looking at it. Because if you were right, then the husbands would have a good claim. That's not what she said. She said, "I'm marrying you, and I need your commitment." Just like you said, if she would make a commitment for $200,000, okay, I need a commitment $40,000 a year for 5 years, okay. And then the second husband, she says, I need a commitment for 5 years, $40,000, and there happens to be overlap. Would the husbands be able to come along and say, oh, so for those 2 years, we're only going to give her $40,000 and not $80,000?
No.
Okay, wait just a minute. So you agree with that? So don't interpret. Mizonos was a financial commitment. You know what? We'll be a lot smarter when you read the Ritva, and you'll see that we're interpreting it as a financial commitment. Let's read it.
Well, but so if it is a financial commitment, then why does it matter? Why are we even discussing a preference to give food versus money? It's a financial commitment.
Yes, but it could be that the preference is still to give food over money. Okay.
Why?
You'll see. There's lots of reasons. Just assume that in those days, well, I'll tell you one of the reasons, because one of the claims is going to be, I'm committed to give food, but you got to come to my house to eat the food. And therefore he's trying to get out of it by saying, I want to give food. And I know that it's not convenient for the daughter to take food. Not convenient for the daughter to take food. So if I'm ready to fulfill my commitment, and the girl says it's not convenient for me, then it's her problem. I'm just showing you that there is a difference. There's got to be a difference. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in court. Why are they in court? Yeah, we are in court. So you got to figure out somebody has an agenda here. Somebody has an interest. There's a conflict of interest. That has to be understood as where we are. Let's read the Ritva. Okay. Lishna muchach sharashut biyada livchor eza mehem shetirtze lazun ve'eza latek dmei mizonos. He says the language of the Mishnah shows that she gets to choose. In other words, it says one gives mizonos and one gives money, and she gets to choose who's going to give the money and who's going to give the food. Ephraim, I know you're not real. That wasn't your default, but that's what the Ritva is saying. That's what it sounds like from the Mishnah. She gets to choose. And
it's a sensible approach, but I don't see it. Anyhow.
And in case you weren't convinced, We have a Yerushalmi that says it explicitly. V'chein amar b'Yerushalmi hamakabel lazun kalato. Okay, now we only have one direction. Mikabel, this is a Yerushalmi. Hamakabel lazun kalato. Okay? That nowadays, what have we got? The Shver says, I'm going to support you guys for 5 years. That's lazunit kalato. All right, I'm going to give you food for to my daughter-in-law. He omeret mos v'hu omer peiros. She wants cash, and he wants to give food. Says the Yerushalmi hadin ima, if he committed to support, that's the word we need. Lozun means to support her for 5 years, she can demand cash. Now we're going to extend it further. Okay? A guy, you commit to give a guy food for 5 years. I'm going to support you for 5 years. Meaning he's got to go to her. He can't demand that she comes to him. He's got to go to her. Vitana hu omer shetavo etzli v'hi omer eini rotza shadin ima. He says, you come to me and I'll feed you. And she says, no. I'm living here. You got to come and feed me. Once you committed to feed me, you got to come to me to feed me. So you see that the girl's hand is on the girl has the upper hand. And therefore, who knows lo demei mizonos? Meaning, he doesn't want to go travel all the way to feed her. He's got to give her the money. He's got to give her the food he's got to give her the money for the mizonos. The point is, and we're going to see this more explicitly in the Rabbeinu Crash Kash, that a commitment to feed built into a commitment to lazun implies money. We're going to see that inside. Let's see inside. Again, that's the chiddush of the Yerushalmi. Okay, unless Chazal are interpreting what does a person undertake when he undertakes lazun. Let's see the Rabbeinu Kashkash. The chen lo yomru shneim arianu zanim osu ke'echad. Klomar lo nomar. Remember, at the end of the day, and this goes back to what you guys said. At the end of the day, what was the commitment? What was the commitment of the second guy vis-a-vis the first guy? So you shouldn't say, "Lo, no." Here's our default. Heim lo nitchayvu lo elef mimizonos v'lo midmei mizonos. Their commitment is food, not the cost of food. The kivan shekain, if the commitment is food and not cost of food, nita laha mizonos she'itzricha. Then all we do is we give her as much food as she needs. I committed to give you as much food as you need. Shimon committed to give you as much food as you need. So since Reuven is giving you food, all I have to do is supplement what Reuven is missing from Reuven. And Reuven says, I have to supplement what's missing from Shimon. And therefore the default would be that each of them gives half, because the commitment is to give you the food that you need. That's the commitment. I'm going to give you food that you need for 5 years. And Shimon's going to give you food that you need for 5 years. Well, guess what? So from 2018 to 2020, the food that she needs is only half of what Reuven has to give and half of what Shimon has to give. That's the default. Ella. So if we don't say that, what do we yes say? El echad zonav echad nosin lo dmei mizonos. Shemi shenischayev. Here's the key phrase. Shemi shenischayev lechavero bimizonos chayev litein lo dmei mizonos. Hilkach hareu kamishin ischayev lo kol echad ve'echad b'nei mizonos. So we've got it backwards. We thought that when the husband commits, the first husband commits food from 2015 to 2020, he's committing food. Says Rabbeinu Kashkash, no. The Mishnah holds that when a person commits food, his basic commitment is money. He can pay off the money commitment with food, but his basic commitment is money. All right, and therefore, since each one is committed demei mizonos, they can't overlap. V'teida lecha dehachihu. De'ilo, amai chayiv litin lo is demei mizonos. Harei lo nischayiv ela mi mizonos. He's proving the fact. He's showing what the Mishnah holds. The Mishnah holds that when a person is mitchayev mizonos, it really means demei mizonos. Because if it didn't mean demei mizonos, then they should be able to split it in half. And the Mishnah says they can't. So you have to now understand the reason for din. Why can't they split it? It must be that the commitment was financial and not food. Ela shma mina de dina hachi de mishen ischayv lechaver latet lo mizonos. I commit to give you mizonos. What I'm really saying is chayav litin lo demei mizonos. I have to give you demei mizonos.
Okay, I have a question.
Let me just finish Yerushalmi. V'cheinu mefush b'Yerushalmi. Hamakabel lozun kaloso. He omeret maos. Hu omer peros. Hadin ima. She can demand money if the commitment was lazun. Yeah.
Okay, so let me turn Rabbeinu Kreshkes on his head. Simple case. There's not two husbands. There's one husband, and he's doing his thing for 2 years. And he says, you know what? I'm sick of all the stuff with caterers and food and stuff like that. Here's the money. Go buy your daughter all the food that she needs. I'm not providing food anymore.
100% he's going to win.
What? You cut out.
I will repeat it. 100%, both according to the Ritva and according to the Rabbeinu Kashkash, he will win. That is why they can't overlap. In other words, you got to start from the beginning. The beginning is the interpretation. That's what we see from the Mishnah. That's what the Ritva and the Rabbeinu Kashkash are saying. We see from the Mishnah the fact that they can't overlap and that one has to actually deliver money shows that the fundamental commitment is money that is executed with food. But if for some reason it's not, then it's money. And therefore, the girl has the choice when they both want to give food and one has to give money, the girl can choose who. And by the same token, in your case, the husband can switch the deal in the middle. According to the Rabbeinu Kashkash, again, without this Mishnah, we never would have said that, Pinchas. Of course. As a lawyer, you would have said, very good. Committed to give food, Mapitom, he can change to money. The girl says, I don't want money, I want food. I want you to feed me every day. No, that's the chiddush here. You realize how this is going to reflect so much on our case of the grindstones. That's why it's so important to see this, the way they learn. Now you're going to see how they learn pshat in the grindstone case, given this. In other words, even the idea that we can import this din to the grindstone case, what they wanted to do is a little bit strange. How could you import? There's no connection. Okay, so we'll see. Can we go on? Let's see the Meiri. Let's see the Ritva on the Gemara. Okay, so now you know already what the Ritva's position is from the Ritva on the Mishnah. Now let's see how the Ritva learns the Gemara. And by the way, I did mention there are different meforshim, different explanations on exactly what the deal was. Meaning, not what the deal was, I'm sorry. What the socher, who the socher was. Is the socher a private guy who just needs to grind his own wheat? Is the socher going into a grinding business? Not so clear. Pirush, shehiskir beit harechayim shalo bischar sheyitrach litchon ma sheyet tzarich lo litchon kol hashan. So the Ritva is making it a very loose kind of an arrangement. Okay, because obviously there's a guy has wheat, he doesn't stam, right? Ruvain needs ground wheat all year. And he has a grindstone that he can't do anything with. So he rents it to Shimon, and the rental fee is that I grind my wheat for you, you have to grind my wheat for me, and then you can do the rest of the year, and the rest of the time you can do whatever you want. Okay, that was the deal. So he's not paying money, he's paying, the rental fee is to grind wheat for Ruvain. L'sof, iater maskir v'zoven rechai lechamra. He bought his own grinding stone. V'haya tochen bo, masha haya l'socher litchon lo. And he now starts grinding what he needed from the socher. He's grinding it himself. And Omar lay, and therefore he says to the socher, havli dmei tchina. I want you now to pay me the value of grinding services, because I don't need the grinding services anymore. Okay, so exactly how the deal was set up and exactly, but the bottom line is very simple. The masker says, I don't need your grinding services anymore. From now on, you're paying rent in cash rather than in grinding services. Okay.
Why does he call it Demei Tchina? It's just rent.
Because how much rent? The value of grinding services. That's what he means. He means the value of the grinding services that you were doing for me. Now I want that in cash.
But there was no objective value to that grinding service. He could have brought him 3 tons of wheat. He could have brought him 30 tons of wheat. He would have to grind everything he brings him.
No. So that again, that's the Ritva is very careful to say. Masha yehi tzarich lo litchon kol hashana. In other words, there's an average amount of the socher himself is not stupid. The socher is not stupid. There's an understanding that there's a normal amount of wheat that a family of four needs, right? A standard amount of grinding services that we need to feed. He can't just grind. He can't bring Shimon 10 tons of wheat to grind so that he can sell it on the open market. That's clearly wasn't the deal. Clearly wasn't.
I'm not happy with the comparison.
Wait, there's no comparison yet. You don't want to compare it to the girl yet?
Yes, correct. I don't want to compare it. They're two completely different situations.
Wait. Ephraim, in football, you would get a 5-yard penalty for offsides.
Okay.
Okay. That's offsides. Right now we're where we are. We didn't get it further than that. Okay. Don't laugh, guys. Sometimes I also have a 15-yard penalty for illegal procedure. There are guys who do illegal procedure in this year.
I'll stay silent.
That wasn't illegal procedure. That was only offsides. Offsides is 5 yards. Okay.
It depends if it's Canadian football or American football.
I'm in America.
Right.
I'm in America. Only American football. Anyway, okay. So here's the case. Amar Le. So now now we get into court. Amar Le Socher. The Socher says back to the masker who now wants cash instead of grinding services. Mitchan tchinen alecha. I'm going to continue grinding for you. I'm very sorry. The deal is grinding. I'm going to continue grinding for you. You don't need it. That's your problem, not my problem. Savar Ravina Lamemar. Hainu Masnisin. Ravina said, hey, that's our Mishnah. Ditanan. Echad nosin ladmei mezonos. Meaning, the minute the girl doesn't need the mezonos, she can turn around and demand money. And therefore, who does Ravina want to win? The socher or the masker?
Masker.
Reuben wants the masker to win because just like the girl doesn't need the food, she can demand money instead of the food. The masker can say, I don't need the wheat, now give me money. Amar le Rav Avira midami. It's not comparable. I'm not sure if he's going to say the same reason that Ephraim is going to say why it's not comparable. That's why I didn't want to hear what you had to say yet. Okay? Hasam chadakresa isla. The girl only has one stomach. But here, the masker has what to do with the wheat. The implication is kolomar. Hasam, in the case of the girl, like you want to keep the deal in place literally with food. And that you got to eat the food. Too bad. Deal is for double food. You got to eat the food. Tafsid me'echad, right? Tafsid me'echad. One of the foods is going to be lost because she doesn't have two stomachs. She can only consume one round of food, and therefore she will lose the other round. She won't get what she's entitled to. All right. Tafsid me'echad me'ochel kolzman she'enu yichol alechol. That never was on their minds, is that one is going to give food and the other is going to be lost. The whole deal was that they're going to get double food. But here in our case, kitachin lesocher lamaskir lo mafsid maskir midi. But the maskir is not losing anything if the socher continues grinding for the maskir. The maskir will consume the wheat, and he can use his grinding mill for other purposes. Meaning, he doesn't have to grind his own wheat. He can continue giving his wheat to the socher, and he can benefit. And what is he going to do with his own grinding mill? Let him grind wheat for somebody else. This is why the socher can say back, listen, I'm going to continue the deal. What are you going to do with your grinding mill? You grind and store it, grind it and sell it. You have what to do with the extra wheat. But the girl has nothing to do with the extra food. Okay, let's stop right there. So the Rav Avira is saying that you can't make a comparison. You can't say that just like the girl can demand to change the deal because she doesn't need the food. She can demand money. And you wanted to say the masker, since he doesn't need the wheat, can demand money and change the deal. Says Rav Avira, it's not the same. Because the reason the girl can demand to change the deal is because she has nothing to do with the extra food. But you, Mr. Masker, have what to do with the extra wheat. And therefore, you can't change the deal. Freeze frame. Now, Ephraim, what did you want to say? I'm not sure whether Ephraim wanted to say something different than what Rav Avira said.
No, I was going back to in the case of the grindstone, the guy, the one party, the guy who's getting the wheat, he did this to himself. In other words, when he bought the second grindstone, he should have remembered that he has a commitment to the guy to buy his grain. So for him to decide, I'm going to buy a grindstone and I'm going to demand cash from the first grindstone guy, that's his fault. He was the cause of this whole mess. By the girl, the first stepfather, he wasn't the cause of the problem. He was fine with the previous arrangement. So it's just
you got them mixed up. You got them mixed up. If you want to say who caused the problem, what's the problem? The problem is extra grinding services and extra food. The mother who took on the second commitment is the one. You got to compare. You've got to know who you're comparing to what. Okay, that's what tricky. I think I wrote it in my notes somewhere. Yeah, here it is. You got to remember who you're comparing to what. Where did I write it here? This was the mistake. Okay, the girl is compared. The girl / mother is compared to the maskir, and exactly what you said about the maskir. That hey, why did you go and buy another? Why did you go and get married and get another commitment? And that's exactly what you said, that the maskir, the weak taina of the maskir that you just introduced should be the weak taina of the girl / mother also. That's what Ravina is saying. Are you following, Ephraim? I hear what you wanted to say. But don't blame the maskir. You can say the maskir is weak because really, you know what you're really saying? What you're saying is you want to change the deal. You want to change the deal. That's really what you're saying.
No, I don't.
And the masker is saying, I want to change the deal. And we're telling the masker, you can't change the deal. New circumstances arose because of what you did. You can't change the deal. And we say to the mother, you can't change the deal. The deal was food. So that's it. You're stuck with the deal. You don't need it. It's your problem.
Yeah, the other level of problem is that it's clear and obvious that the girl can't eat double the food. To go to the grindstone guy and say, look, I don't want flour anymore. I want cash. You go store it. You go sell it. You do this or that. That is seems to me not to be fair and reasonable either, because you could find somebody to store it, or you can find somebody to buy it.
That's exactly what Rav Avira says. That's exactly what Rav Avira says. Is that the girl, right? The fathers. It doesn't matter to them whether they have to pay food worth $100 or $100. Okay, remember you got to know who you're comparing to. What you're comparing the fathers to the socher, and you're comparing the girl to the maskir. Okay, and there's where Tosfos comes in with a little curveball. Okay, and as we go back and forth, the socher says, "Look, you can't change the deal because I'm going to lose if I change the deal." And you realize that that's because, that's modified. If the socher really could find other people to replace the socher, even though it's not convenient, and even though if he could find other people to replace the maskir, it's not convenient, and it's changing the deal, we would make him change the deal. Why? Kofin al mirasdo. Kofin al mirasdo. At the end of the day, the socher really has a problem. The socher the maskir has a problem. He doesn't need your wheat anymore. He wants cash. So you're allowed to say, look, I don't have cash. You can't change the deal. But if you could get cash easily, and to you it doesn't matter, then we would make you change the deal and come up with cash. That's kofin al mirasdo. What Tosfos threw into the equation is, what happens if the masker would lose if we didn't change the deal? So then said Tosfos, then the masker can change the deal, i.e., take back the grindstone. And the Rosh says, Mapitom, why are we letting him change the deal unilaterally? If the socher can't find a replacement for the grinding services, why should the masker be able to change the deal? Okay, and that's why it's not comparable. So the main distinction is that the girl really objectively can't use the extra resources, whereas the masker could. Okay, let's see how the Meiri presents it. Ruvain shehiskir rechaim shalo l'shimon lizman yadua bischar sheyiton lo shavua echad b'chodesh This is very much simpler. I think this is what this avoids, of course, the question of how much. The deal is once a week, Shimon grinds for Ruvain, and 3 weeks a month he grinds on his own, i.e., which sounds like he has a business. Okay, uskar tchina hashlosha shavuos yu l'Shimon. It sounds clearly that according to the Meiri understands the scenario is that Shimon took the grindstone to open up a grindstone business, and the rent is going to be 1 week for Ruvain and 3 weeks for himself, i.e., for his customers. The achakak nisasha Ruvain, the kanarei chayim v'chamor v'yatoken la'atzmo, and then Ruvain doesn't now need Shimon's grinding services. The Omer l'Shimon hasocher me'ata eini tzarich litchon etzlecha. I don't need to come to you anymore for grinding services. Ten lischar tchina oso shavua shayit tochen litzarchi. There's a commercial value. There's a financial value of grind services for a week. That's what you're going to pay me. V'halo omer eini motze kidei sipuk tchina. I can't find more customers to make up that week that I'm going to stop grinding for you. El hareini tochen litzarchachar kamoshi itnesi. And I'm going to continue grinding for you because I have no way to generate, to replace your grinding services with other customers that are going to generate money. Hadin ima socher. Socher wins. Ve'areu omer le'maskir tchon berechan shalcha limkor v'tchon berechan shali la'aniach b'veitecha. You grind your stuff and make and open up and make that commercial, and you continue grinding for me, and I'm going to continue providing you with the services. Okay, so till there, that seems to be pretty clear. That's the din. Says the Miri, but of course the socher's whole taina was, I can't replace your services with paying customers. That's why he can keep the deal in place. But kol shasocher motze b'chtei sipok techina af laoso shavua kofin amiras dom. Vein omrim adin ima maskir litchon le'atzmo berechayim elu v'lio socher nosen lo maos. Meaning, as long as the socher can't find a replacement, the masker can't force a change in the deal. Okay? Again, when the socher can't find a replacement. She'ima ochlo im hasheni she'ima l'sham v'rishon malala mezonos hol ve'enzu tzichos l'mezonos shelo and you don't compare it. He says she'b'mishnasenu ein lamakom mezonosenu mezonos of shel rishon. She has no way to utilize the mezonos of the first guy. Again, the simple assumption is that when she married the second guy, the girl went with her to the second guy, and now what she wants is that the first guy should send over the money for the mezonos for the remaining 2 years. Certainly, the first husband can't say, "Well, come and have dinner with me, and then go back and have a second dinner with the second husband." There's no way she can benefit from 2 dinners. But in the case of the Rechayim, you, Mr. Masker, have what to do with the extra wheat. You will notice, I hope you do notice, that neither the Ritva nor the Meiri bring in the question, what happens if the Masker doesn't have what to do with the wheat? Apparently, they don't think that there's an issue. He's always got what to do with the wheat. He can store it, he can sell it. Or, we could also say, like the Rosh says, and it seems to be from the Meiri and the Ritva that they agree with the Rosh and not with Tosfos, is that that's his problem. It's not the Socher's problem. At the end of the day, the Socher has the right to say that was the deal. We keep the deal. Okay, let's just see quickly how the Rabbeinu Kashkash learns the Gemara after we learned the Mishnah. Who gaver the oger rechai lechaver letchina perish Ruben shehiski rechai l'shimon v'hitne lo b'scharo sheyitchin lo yud kurim chitim o kav b'shana. Here again, Doug, we solved your problem. There's a fixed amount how much he has to grind every month or every year for the rent. L'sofi ater Ruben is amasker v'kana rechai v'chamor v'yomer le'l'shimon yiten lo schar v'damim. Give me now the financial value of the grinding services. Shimon says, I'm very sorry. Deal is the deal. I'm going to keep grinding for you. All right. And It's your problem. Can't change the deal unilaterally. The Sover Ravina Lememer, Hainu Masnisin, is exactly like the din of the Mishnah. The Adinim Ruvain, Sheyachalomer lo Tainli Schirus, Bidamim, Ukariamrina Bemasnisin, Dechanos lo Demem Zonos. Just like in the Mishnah, when the girl doesn't need it, she can demand money. Shima Ruvain, the masker, doesn't need it, he can demand money. Ba'achanami, Hachihu Diafilu Shehitna Imo B'schar Tchina, even though the original deal was that the rent is the value of tchina, demei tchina b'mashma. It doesn't mean actual tchina, but the implication was that you're going to pay me the value of tchina, and you can pay it in money or you can pay it in actual tchina. That was Ravina's approach. The Amar Le Ravina. So you see, the understanding here is everybody agrees that the implication of mizonos is demei mizonos. And the thought of Ravina, according to the Rav Kashkash, is that when it said you're going to do tchina, it really meant dmei tchina, and therefore you can always switch it to money. The Amar Le Ravina de lo dami, the Hasam Chara Kresa Isla Tarti Kresa Lesle Kolomar. What does that mean? B'masnisen hu de Amrin and the Lav Mizonos Mamish Ka'omar Ela Dmei Mizonos. Remember, we assumed in the Mishnah, the minute the Mishnah tells us that one gives Dmei Mizonos, that means that when they were Mechayev Mizonos, it really meant Dmei Mizonos. Because if it didn't mean Dmei Mizonos, as you guys are all screaming, Mapitom, I have to give Dmei Mizonos. I was Mechayev Mizonos. Ella, the Mishnah is teaching us that a commitment for Mizonos implies Dmei Mizonos. But why is that true? Why does a commitment for Mizonos imply Dmei Mizonos? Mishum de'ita dechara kreisa isla is meaning the isla Mizonos bishalah. Because anytime you commit Mizonos, it really means Dmei Mizonos, because somebody can't always eat Mizonos. Sometimes they don't need to eat the Mizonos, i.e. they have their own sources. So therefore it's only there because of Trei Kresa, because she never can consume more than Mizonos. And sometimes you don't need Mizonos. A commitment for Mizonos always implies Dmei Mizonos. You have lots of things to do with the extra wheat. V'dafka mishum haytaima defrishisu, avalo kipashto kishapashto chara kresa isla tarte kresa lesla umishum shenischayev lo acher o abal b'mizonosu. In other words, but it's don't make a mistake. Don't think that we're changing the deal only because she can't use it. If the only problem was I can't use it, that's your problem. Because you can't use it, I don't have to give you money. Mapitom. Says if that would be true, so then the masker would win here. But he says, that's a wrong pshat. When it says chat treisa, we're not really talking about the practicality of consuming double portions. That's a representative of the halacha that mizonos means dmei mizonos because of consumption needs. The aim b'mashma dmei mizonos, in the event, as you guys wanted to say, if when you commit mizonos, it doesn't mean dmei mizonos, it means mizonos. Then mishum shenischayev lo bal kemizonos yafsid rishon. Right? The fact that there's if mizonos didn't mean dmei mizonos, how in the world are you forcing the first husband to give dmei mizonos? He was mechayev mizonos. The fact that there's a second guy making mizonos, what does that have to do with me? I give mizonos or nothing. Elashmamina, the dina hachi kisivna b'masnisin, as the Rabbeinu Kashkash wrote in the Mishnah. That's how he explained the Mishnah, is that the commitment of mizonos really means dmei mizonos. Ela dehacha hainu time de ein gmashma mizonos. Ela dmei mizonos mishum de efshar shiyulo mizonos mimalkom acher. O mishum des minin de ihilo boy lemechal my diavle. So mizonos always means dmei mizonos. De bedavar acher nichala tvei velo matzi lemechal havaha. The less latarte kresos. That's another. The idea is mizonos really means dmei mizonos. Umishum hachi hu dehasam yesh b'mashma de mizonos. Aval hacha, but by grinding services. Grinding services means grinding services. Where does money come into the commitment of the rent is grinding services? Okay, and therefore you, Mr. Masker, have nothing to do with it. That's your problem. The deal was grinding services. Money is not on the table, and it's very clear that the Rabbeinu Kashkash certainly argues with Tosfos. Certainly would argue with Tosfos. Okay, but hecha de lesle tchina l'reichaya, aval hecha de isle tchina l'reichaya. No sin loschar de kigonze kofen al mirazno. The only way we could force the socher to give money is if he will lose without the money. He will lose if he has to give money because he has no other customers. But if he won't lose, then we're going to force him because of Koven al Mirazon. But the maskir situation never comes on the table according to the Rabbeinu Kashkash and even according to the Meiri and the Ritva. But the Rabbeinu Kashkash makes it very clear. He says what I learned from the Mishnah with the fact that this first husband has to give money or one of them has to give money is that Mizonos really implies Demei Mizonos. And why does Mizonos imply Demei Mizonos? Because people sometimes can't use all the Mizonos that you committed to. Okay, and therefore when you commit Mizonos, it's the standard amount of food that a person commits in cash. And therefore it has nothing to do with the Rechaim case.
So I don't understand the compelling argument of the Rabbeinu Kashkash regarding the wheat. You can't say that the maskir may not be able to dispose of the ground wheat.
You absolutely could say it, but that's too bad. You know why? Who understands what the Rabbeinu Kashkash just said? Why do we not care whether the maskir has use for the extra wheat or not? Why do we care that the girl can't use the extra food, and we don't care that the maskir can't use the extra wheat? That's the whole point of Rabbeinu Kashkash. Come on, guys, you got to if you can't answer Doug's question, you didn't get everything. You didn't get the Rabbeinu Kashkash. Yeah, Josh.
Because it was intrinsic to the deal. The Mizonos means the Demei Mizonos, and Tchina means I'm providing you wheat. So they had different contracts.
That's the answer. That's what the Rabbeinu Kashkash says. I learned from the Mishnah. The fact that when he was committing Mizonos, that he has to give Demei Mizonos has to be built on the assumption that Mizonos is not always needed, and therefore implicit in Mizonos is really Demei Mizonos. But grinding services, and where did grinding services ever have implicit money? Mizonos really implies Demei Mizonos. But grinding services never implies Demei grinding services. It's grinding services. And therefore, the masker is trying to unilaterally change the deal. Whereas in the girl's case, we're trying to interpret the deal. We can interpret the deal because Mizonos can't always be used as Mizonos. Chazal were kovea that the commitment Mizonos really implies Demei Mizonos. Because you can't use the extra Mizonos. But people could use extra grinding services. The fact that this masker can't, that's his problem.
Do we have a decision now in the case of the girl? Who has to pay the money?
So that's already that's it seems from the Rabbeinu, who was it? Was it that said that the girl gets to choose? I think it was the Rabbeinu, it was the Ritva. Ritva says the girl, since one has to give money and one has to give mizonos, the girl gets to choose who she wants money from and who she wants mizonos from. That's what it says.
According to the Rabbeinu Kashkash, he's saying that since the Gemara comes out where we can only compel the socher to pay if he can find customers for the extra wheat, the wheat that he used to provide to the mosque here. So
that's only because of Kofin al Midas Dome. It's an extraterritorial din.
No, I understand, but again, in other words, the case with Mazonis, there also, were it not for the Mishnah, we would still be arguing about whether or not the two stepfathers can each go in halves. But the Mishnah, the din of the Mishnah compels us to say, oh, well, I learned from the Mishnah. The only way to understand the Mishnah is that Mazonos means Demei Mazonos.
Correct.
It's not necessarily a foolproof logical argument.
Except that Rabbeinu Kashkash is explaining why that's true. The reason why Mizonos implies Demei Mizonos is because Mizonos is the kind of a thing that sometimes you can use and sometimes you can't use. And therefore Mizonos implies Demei Mizonos. Again, of course, that's the Chiddush of the Mishnah, Doug. Don't fight the Mishnah. Understand the Mishnah.
I understand, but again, you could say to the girl, you can't use 2 meals, tough on you.
That's exactly the Mishnah says. The reason we don't say it is because commitment of mizonos from the beginning implies demei mizonos because there are so many situations. Listen, there are so many situations where mizonos can't actually be used, and therefore, when somebody commits mizonos, that we said in the Yerushalmi explicitly says when a guy promises mizonos to his daughter-in-law, she can right away demand right off the bat. She can demand money because the commitment, the word commitment mizonos implies cost of mizonos. That's the chiddush of the Mishnah. That's the chiddush of the Yerushalmi. Of course, we need them to chiddush. But once you have that, you realize you can't apply that to the rental case. You can't apply that to the grindstone case because there's no justification for saying that when I commit to grinding services, that there's any implication of money there. There's no implication of money. There's not money. It's grinding services. Okay? And therefore, the maskir, we don't care, and therefore, according to everybody else, except Tosos, we don't care what the masker situation is because fundamentally, extra wheat can always be used. Extra wheat can always be used somehow.
So the Kofi al Midas Stone.
You want the Psak Halacha?
No, I want to just clarify. The Kofi al Midas Stone, where we're holding right now, right, is basically, I'm trying to understand it, that Shimon the Soicher can say, you demanding, the maskir Reuben demanding from me money is Midas Stone?
No.
That's what I'm trying to understand that.
You got it exactly backwards. You first got to know the basic. The din is that Shimon can say, I'm continuing the deal. I'm continuing the deal. The deal was grinding services. I continue grinding services. Finish.
The terminology of Kofi al Midas Stone, like
I didn't. That's why I'm not talking. Don't talk about that yet. Don't talk about Midas Stone.
But the Gemara used that term, no?
You got to know when to use it and in what context to use it. The din. Shimon says the deal was grinding services. Yes. You can't make me change the deal.
Okay.
You can't make me change the deal. Why? Why can't I make you change? Wait, why can't I make you change the deal? Because if we change the deal, you're going to have a grindstone sitting empty for half a year.
Right.
And you're going to have to reach into your pocket to pay money, and you have a grindstone sitting empty for half a year. And therefore, right. I can't force you to change the deal because you're going to lose because of the change of the deal.
Right.
Is that clear? You got that? You understand that?
Clear. Yeah, that's clear. It's clear.
Wonderful. So in the event that we could show that the socher has a way not to lose money by changing the deal,
okay.
that he won't lose money by changing the deal, introduce a new system called Kofin al Minas Dom and say that even though by rights you can demand I'm not changing the deal, you can't make me change the deal because that was our deal. But if you won't lose anything by changing the deal, we're going to force you to change the deal.
I think that's taking. I mean, this is not something that I can say it's 4 minutes past the end of the hour, but I think that is taking Kofi Aminat Stone to a place way beyond what it normally is.
Well, okay, so we'll pick this up next time, but I'll just tell you what you just said is undefined. You just made an assumption. You made an assumption that there is some normal place where Kofi Aminat Stone used. This is one of the only places in the Gemara. We're going to see the other one probably next time. The idea Kofi Aminat Stone is not such a simple construct. It's a big chiddush.
Right.
Okay,
save it for next time.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so next time you'll have the Rambam and the tour, and we're gonna already have a Gemara Bava Kama. Have a Gemara Bava Kama. Have a real Gemara Bava Kama because we want to see some Meforshim also. That's where we're going to get into That's where they're going to get into. We did this before, by the way. The Gemara Bava Kama we did a long time ago, but we're going to look at it now with different eyes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Seder Gemara. See everybody Bezrat Hashem Wednesday.
Go yeah.
Okay.